In 2024, there were less than 1% enterprise applications that used agentic AI. According to Gartner, that number is going to go up to 33% in just the next 3 years. What does this mean to all of you? It means that a significant amount of day-to-day work decisions and business processes will be run autonomously in the near future. You may be the head of data science, a product owner, or an ML engineer in your organization. And you may want to use agents today to transform your business workflows across a spectrum of autonomy. On the one side, highly deterministic workflows that require high human oversight, and on the other, autonomous workflows with less human oversight. We know the process of creation, deploying, testing, and scaling these agents can be challenging. And hence today, we are here to share how Amazon Bedrock agents and our multi-agent collaboration capabilities can help you transform your workflows. My name is Hassan, and I'm an AI and ML solutions architect at AWS, working with healthcare and life science customers in the EMEA region. And today we are excited to have AstraZeneca with us to share their story on transforming their drug development data platform with agentic AI. Andrew Osborne is the Director of R&D IT, Data, Analytics, and AI Engineering at AstraZeneca. So let's dive into the agenda. We're going to talk about why agents are relevant. Then we'll talk about Bedrock agents and our multi-agent collaboration capabilities. Then Andrew will talk to us about their story at AstraZeneca, the key outcomes achieved and lessons learned. And finally, we will leave you with a few demos as well as resources to get started. So let's start by talking about what is a generative AI agent. And these are intelligent autonomous systems that can be run in order to achieve a higher goal. And they typically use foundation models in order to perform the workflow orchestration, but also the interaction with end users. Now, when these agents are able to plan, reason, and then act on behalf of that plan, and hence are able to dynamically execute multi-step workflows. These days, when customers build agents, they typically connect them to their own enterprise data. It can be corporate documents, wikis, structured and unstructured databases. But agents can also work with tools that can perform actions on your behalf, perhaps run web search, access other APIs, or run tasks on behalf of users. And like I mentioned earlier, these agents work across a spectrum of autonomy, the highly deterministic ones to the ones that require less human oversight. Now, we believe that agentic AI is at a tipping point today. And why is that so? First, foundation models have evolved to have advanced reasoning capabilities. All of you will be aware of the wide range of choices you have when it comes to foundation models and cost-effective options. Second, organizations have developed a good infrastructure, a secure and robust infrastructure that enables them to connect their enterprise agentic applications to their enterprise data, ensuring optimal performance, but also data integrity. And third, the emergence of development tools like coding assistants or new protocols like MCP today are streamlining the process of development and productionization of agents. So what is AWS's vision when it comes to agentic AI? At AWS, we want to provide the best place to build and deploy the most trusted and performant agents in the world. And in order to do so, we understand that there's no one-size-fits-all. That was true for many technologies, and it is true for agents as well. And hence, we provide options to customers in 3 categories. The first, Amazon Q agents that help you connect with enterprise business data. The second, Amazon Bedrock agents with fully managed foundation model powered orchestration. And finally, do-it-yourself agents for expert developers who can use open source frameworks easily. And today's session, we will focus on Bedrock agents and its capabilities. Some of the use cases we are hearing across industries involve analyzing large data sets, whether it is for medical research or for financial services, or perhaps processing large number of documents for healthcare, insurance, and mortgage applications. Or maybe creating marketing campaigns, generating insights with root cause analysis for senior executives, or of course, the contact center agents that are continuing to evolve and improve customer experience today. Now, what we have heard from customers across these industries typically fall over into 3 requirements. The first, those complex processes, help me automate them in order to perform advanced reasoning and the use of tools, and perhaps a combination of agents. And the second, while there are several development tools available when it comes to agentic AI, it still requires a heavy investment to get it right. And so customers are asking us for out-of-the-box solutions that can help them move faster. And finally, robust and scalable solutions in order to move from development to production. And this will enable you to manage change in your business processes, but also change when it comes to the new large language models that are released almost every day. And hence, we released Amazon Bedrock agents with multi-agent collaboration capabilities that allow you to work with several foundation models, use memory, guardrails, and knowledge bases, as well as tools and action groups for performing actions. And finally, the ability to trace how your agent is performing over time with observability dashboards and multi-agent collaboration capabilities. So in my experience, one of the use cases that customers typically go after involve internal productivity applications. So let's look at one such example here. We're looking at an HR time-off application, and perhaps you have existing resources like a time-off microservice and maybe a time-off database for your end user employees. And so you build that first version, you move on to version 2, and you connect it with HR policies in order to search with natural language. So now your employees are able to use this application to perform a series of tasks. So you then improve it further by adding version 3. And version 3 now has the capability to manage leave of absence. And while that is great, you all can find this very familiar, where the agent might start to get becoming into a monolithic application. And just like other technologies, monolithic applications have challenges, and so do agents. For example, the coding may get complicated. The prompts may get too long to manage, and that can result in hallucination. Or the agent may get confused and not perform robustly and perhaps use the wrong set of tools. And finally, these agents might get slower and more expensive, and hence may not add value in your business process. So how should we address that? For scalability as well as for flexibility, perhaps it makes sense to have 3 separate agents. So here we have a time-off specialist that works with a time-off app. And then a leave of absence expert that works with a leave of absence app. And finally, a promotion agent that would work specifically in a promotion app for employees. Now, this is great. Based on the user query, the right application is used, and the user gets a response. But that still leaves your end users with a splintered user experience. They now need to navigate across a range of applications in order to solve their queries. And if you decide to build out multi-agent orchestration, that can be hard and take away from your core business process. And finally, some of the complex challenges, like I mentioned earlier, around advanced research may still remain unsolved. And so we released Bedrock multi-agent collaboration capabilities that allow you to assemble agents and knowledge bases. The supervisor agent would then plan and execute tasks across these agents, perform intent classification to route to the relevant agent, and they come with the relevant observability tooling, security, privacy, guardrails that you are so used to already. So we see two big opportunities when it comes to multi-agent collaboration. The first, unify customer experience. And the second, automate complex processes. So let's look at each of them. Coming back to the previous example, you now have a time-off specialist agent, a leave of absence expert, and a promotion expert working with your individual applications. So you bring in a supervisor agent that acts as a one-stop shop to interact with your end users. And this supervisor agent can now select the relevant agent for the task. You ask a question related to time off, and it selects the time off agent. You ask a question related to leave of absence, and it selects the leave of absence expert, and so on. And it comes with optimized routing, which enables the supervisor to choose the right agent very quickly, in fact, typically under a second. So how would this work under the hood? Imagine you have those 3 agents that we already defined. You would then define a supervisor agent and set it up with a large language model. And maybe this large language model is a small and fast model that can perform cheaper and cost-effective. And you provide this supervisor with descriptions of all your collaborators. So now your supervisor knows which agent can perform what particular set of tasks. And that's it. You're ready to go. When the supervisor agent is invoked, it will use that optimized router to perform an intent classification and choose the right agent for the task. So for example, if you are asking a question related to time off, it will use the time off specialist. And if you continue to ask such a question, it will continue to use that agent. But if you were to ask a complex question, like, does my leave of absence affect my promotion? Here, the supervisor agent will come in and break it down into a series of tasks to use multiple agents in order to give you a response. Now, I want to show you a demo to show you agents in action. And in order to do so, I'm going to set up a fictitious company scenario for a company called Octank Mortgages. Octank Mortgages helps customers with their existing mortgages, but also new applications for loans. And you can think of pre-generative AI, the customers of Octank Mortgages typically had long wait times with their call centers, and perhaps not a very pleasant experience with a static website. So they now end up using generative AI and using agents to help address this problem. They set up a supervisor agent that can work with individual agents. And in this demo scenario, we are going to look at an agent for existing mortgages. Then we are going to look at an agent for new mortgage applications. And finally, we are going to look at an agent that can answer general questions of a knowledge source. So let's look at the demo. I log in and I ask a question, and the app recognizes who I am. So I ask it, when is my next payment due, and how much? And the supervisor goes in, and the supervisor goes and selects the right agent to perform this task. It routes to the existing mortgage agent, and as you'll see, it takes less than a second. And that agent will pull out my relevant details and come back with a response. My next payment due is in a particular date and a particular time. So that's great. I ask it a follow-up question. Can you tell me the next remaining cycles and how many payment cycles are remaining? So it goes in and again searches information related to my mortgage and comes back with a result saying 72 remaining payments over the next recurring cycle. So now I want to ask it a rather complex question. I want to know that is it worth for me to perform refinancing at this point? So I ask it, what are my current mortgage rates? And if I were to perform refinancing at this point, what would be the rates? And is it worth it for me? And here, the supervisor will go in and combine that question with a series of agents in order to get the response. It'll set up a plan, and the plan includes finding out information related to my mortgage, but also related to new mortgage applications. And finally, the supervisor synthesizes that response to me. So it comes back with a response saying that my mortgage rate is actually 8.5%. But new mortgage applications for 15 years are at 6.4% today. And typically, a 1% threshold is a good threshold to consider refinancing. So it leaves me with a question. Should I calculate the savings for you if you were to perform refinancing at this point? Through this demo, I wanted to show you agents in action. And now, I would like to invite Andrew to come over and share with us how they have agents in action at AstraZeneca.
Thank you, Hassan. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Osborne. I'm a director working in R&D IT. And today, I'm really happy to take you through our journey with Amazon Bedrock, showing you how we've enabled our data landscape to be accessed via natural language queries. Just to set the scene before we start, this is driving really the innovation that we're talking about. AstraZeneca set out last year its bold ambition. By 2030, we aim to deliver 20 new medicines to the market, be an $80 billion company, and ensure sustainable growth throughout. So that's a real drive for what we need to do next. But we also need to make sure that we stick to our purposes and our values. Our purpose is to push the boundaries of science to deliver life-changing medicines, but what's really important is how we deliver that. One of the key things that we have are our values. Number one is putting patients first. That is the thing that we always think about. So even though we're talking about generative AI, what we need to have a mind on are the patients. Following the science, we talk about following best practice. So this isn't necessarily molecules and being a scientist, it's more about best practice and the things you're learning today. And then we look at the other side, the entrepreneurial side. This is about taking risks, looking at innovation. What can we do to speed up our process? So I'll give you a little bit of detail about what I'm going to talk about today. This is the Drug Development Data Platform. We call it 3DP for short. Like most data platforms, our job is to ingest and conform data. We're a global platform, somewhere in the region of 250 people across the globe, stretching from Chennai, Europe, UK, across to US and Mexico. If you read from the bottom up, we ingest lots of source system data, so external to AstraZeneca. If we just think about clinical trials, think about how much data that would generate, we ingest that into the platform. We conform our data into FAIR data products. This is really key for what we're going to talk about next. If you don't know, FAIR stands for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. The interoperable part is really key. You perhaps would have heard today about lining your data up in terms of generative AI. So just a simple example, if I'm ingesting a source system data that has UK, what we may do is conform that value to United Kingdom. We will do the same for another source system that may say U.K. and make that United Kingdom. It means that all of our data products are interoperable. They're talking the same language. Once we've built our FAIR data products, we publish on a virtualized layer. So just think Amazon portal. That's the place that you go to access your data. And that's essentially our job. That as a data platform, that's what we do. But ultimately what we're doing is serving our end users. We have thousands of users across AstraZeneca that will access our data one way or another. This may be through business intelligence, so think Power BI dashboards. We have hundreds and hundreds of Power BI dashboards in AstraZeneca. We might have data scientists who come along. They'll take the data and do what they need to do with it. And also transactional applications. So these are applications that will serve study planning, for example. So where's the opportunity for generative AI? And it sits here. So this is what I'm going to be going through today. It's our data assistant. Can we open the door to our data landscape? Are we going to allow end users to interact with our data platform directly without applications? The idea being that we can accelerate time to market for our drugs. So here's the specific use case. Can we unlock that data? Are we allowed, or can we create a portal where any user in AstraZeneca can type a question and it will query our data landscape? We're looking at reducing application development. Do we need all of these Power BI dashboards that we have? Can we reduce the costs? And can we accelerate speed to deeper insights? I want to pay particular attention to that deeper insights part. This isn't just about querying a database, getting the number 32 back, and that's the answer. What did the number 32 mean? Is it good? Is it bad? If it was bad, do I need to do something? And what is that thing that I need to do? And our ambition is something like this. So this is a real example. This is from one of our product owners. I'm a data science director looking for insights into, and I've redacted a study name, but just think of an acronym that you won't understand. Indicate what might be the potential problems, give me remedial issues, etc., etc. So we're asking quite a deep question that I don't think anybody could answer in a Power BI dashboard. And this is where we started our journey. So this is June 2024 last year. With a massive amount of help from AWS, so sitting at the front here. They organized a hackathon for us. We had no prior experience of developing Gen AI applications. We've got our data and it's all laid out, but can we expose that? So this is where we started. Our simple POC. This took 3 days to build, and it included a front end and we're not application developers. So the idea being, the user asks a question, we take that question, and we put that into Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock will then generate SQL based on the question. And the way it does that is to get context from our landscape map. Now, our landscape map isn't anything more fancy than select star from information schemas. Databases, tables, field names, field descriptions. Based on that, it will take the SQL, use a Lambda, execute that SQL on the data platform, get the data back, pass that data to something like a visualization service that will then create a graph. And this is what it kind of looks like. So this is 3 days in a hackathon with no prior experience. I've got my glasses. Yes, can you list top 5 countries, clinical trial sites, and visualize results in a pie chart? Normally, this would have to be done through a Power BI dashboard, but through this query, and you can feel the process now happening, fire the question in, get the SQL, execute the SQL, and this, I've redacted some information, but this is a real life example from that. So at this point, after 3 days, as a team, we're living the generative AI dream in summer last year. So where do we go next? Well, the next thing is to take that actually to our users to see if that's going to work for them. We're developers, we're asking the questions, but does it really work for them? And then we hit the challenges, and this is a really important part. So one of the questions here, very, very similar to the question I asked before, would return 0 records, or sometimes it may return 5, and it was slightly random. And we had to figure out where the problem was. Now, I can actually sympathize with the LLM of why it got this wrong. If we look at the question, therapeutic area in the UK. And this is what it would do. The left-hand side is wrong. Firstly, it didn't know what data product to pick, what field to pick. It's because developers generally don't describe fields very well. A couple of sentences, not even a sentence, a few words. So one of the things that we need to do is up our level of description in our metadata. You think what an LLM is going to do, if you don't tell it very much, how does it know to pick you to query? So that was the first part. The second part I've already told you the answer to. We conform our data products to a standard dictionary. The UK is not in that standard dictionary. I know that, you know that, but the LLM didn't. So actually, the left-hand one is kind of right. However, that returns 0 results. When we get to a point when we up the descriptions in our metadata and we align the question to our common vocabularies, then we got a lot better results. So this is the same pipeline, but slightly different. At the start, we augment the question. So as the user asks the question, we take that question and align it to our common vocabularies. The result is a slightly different question that was asked. Then we follow that same process with more well-described metadata. And here's an example. Simple question. Again, I've redacted this, but if we threw that into an LLM, would it really actually understand what I'm talking about? The process I've just described, and what's highlighted in yellow, is the augmented question. This is the question that then gets fired in. We can see that it's put therapeutic area, it's added some more context as well to that question because our business dictionary told us so. And then we start to get better results. So that was great. We solved some of these problems about 0 records coming back. We couldn't figure out why. So the I in interoperable is really crucial. Aligning your data and trying to align the question to your data. But then we hit another problem, and this is where we come on to multi-agents. The process before was a prompt, and it got quite big. And then we brought on more data domains, and they were slightly different. So we needed to add to the prompt. And the prompt got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger it got, the weirder it got. It would suddenly stop doing some things that it did before and do other things that we didn't realize. So we have hit a scaling problem. And this is where we've got to now. So we've taken the process I've described and we've split that down into multi-agents, as Hassan has already gone through before. So if you look at the multi-agent collaboration column, you've already met the terminology agent. That's the agent that augments the question before we fire it in. We have very specific clinical agents that deal with clinical type queries, the same for regulatory domains. The database administrator is there to execute the queries on our landscape. So this is where we've got to today. And this is the original question that I showed you before. And hopefully you can feel a bit more about that process as we go through it. And it's quite a deep question. And here's the answer that we got. Now, the thing that I want to highlight, I think is really important, is I think it's data and insights, like I said at the start. But what's even better is the fact that this is one of our product owners' questions. And he said to me that response and the recommendations were the 5 recommendations that he actually would have given to someone else asking him that question. And what I think is more amazing is we didn't even code that. We didn't even know he was asking the question. We can see in yellow the data, that's executing it, get the data back. It's also interacting with the LLM, with knowledge bases to augment the answer. And I don't think a Power BI dashboard can really do that very well. Now, while this is all going on, the one thing that we forgot to look at is production. This is all well and good when we're developing and testing, but actually what's going on in production, I have no idea unless I'm looking at the types of questions being asked. Are the answers correct? And if I want to make changes to that process, how do I know that they're going to work? Am I going to knock something out that suddenly stops working? And how can I benchmark those changes? Is the new version that I did better than the last version? And with massive help, I have to say, from AWS on the evaluations and observations process. This is a process we step back from what's going on and we take a look at what's going on. On the left-hand side, you will see that we're pulling the actual questions and responses from real users. And at the bottom, we're evaluating how good was that answer. What it also enables us to do on the left-hand side is create unit tests. Right-hand side, wrong way around. Create unit tests. So think of a spreadsheet where you work with your domain. They have their questions, and we list out the SQL that should give you the answer. We call that our golden truths. And what it enables us to do is fire in batch those questions, and it scores them. Yes, that's right, that's right, that's right, that's not right, this is right. And then we can compare. So we can make changes to our pipeline, run the golden truths, and then evaluate afterwards. So this is our path to production. As I said, we started the POC in June 2024 with no prior experience. By December 2024, so just before Christmas, we got the production MVP flag up, and we went into production for 100 users across clinical and regulatory. Where we go next, this is the big thing. This is about scaling. We want to bring on around 1,000 users. We are onboarding domains right now as we speak, and our multi-agent framework, that's increasing drastically as well. So what did we learn? AWS and the partnership that we had, it was really, really important, and I genuinely mean that. I don't think where we would be where we are today without their help. Your data is really important. If you want to do this, you have to line your data up. It doesn't matter if you want to do multi-agents. If you're getting wrong answers, no one's going to care. So aligning your data, making sure that you've got good metadata is really, really important. And then obviously the multi-agent part for scaling. And I just want to leave on this a bit of a reflection on where we got to. It's a really interesting process, I think, for me. We sometimes talk about IT and the business, and there's a big gap between them. We do IT things, we throw it back to the business. But in terms of this, I feel that we've got a lot closer with our business users. We need to understand them more because these questions coming out are quite complex. And equally, they learn from us. So I think we've both learned together and get close to your business users. So I'll now hand you back to Hassan, who will take you through a bit more multi-agent.
Thanks, Andrew, for those great insights on how you're delivering value for your end users with agents. I really liked how Andrew structured his talk and the project right from a POC with technical users to an MVP with specific end users, and then the path to production. as well as their focus on robust evaluation techniques, as well as end-to-end observability. Now, we looked at a few examples of unifying customer experience. Let's look at a second example of automating a large, complex process. And in order to do so, I'm going to set up another fictitious scenario of a marketing company. Now, this marketing company provides services to startups in order to help them launch new products in the market. So you can imagine a startup coming to this company with a new product idea and asking, can you help me generate a campaign and run that campaign for this new product? Now, this marketing company has the best set of people in order to do so, but the demand for their services is going over the roof, and they are not able to scale just by themselves. So they think about setting up agents in order to help them complete a series of tasks. And here, we're looking at a series of sub-agents in action. A market analyst agent that can perform market analysis, perhaps a strategist that can identify a good campaign strategy, as well as content writers and creative feedback directors who can give feedback on the campaign. And then you have a supervisor agent that can orchestrate across all of these agents and come back with a final report. Now just think of these agents are resembling human personas, and they are able to coordinate with each other in order to achieve that higher goal. And that is really beneficial to this particular company. The supervisor would come up with a plan, and that plan would involve performing market research, looking at campaign ideas, and finally generating a final report. So how would that work under the hood? The supervisor would start off by first calling the first sub-agent. In this scenario, it would be the market analysis agent, and it would ask it to go and perform a market analysis. And this would involve web search, looking at demand signals, demographics, and others. Then, after the market analysis report is generated, it would then contact the campaign strategist to come up with a high-level executive strategy, as well as 3 campaign ideas. And finally, the content writer, along with a feedback provider, would iterate over drafts of a campaign and generate the final report. All of this with agents in action together. So let's look at the demo. Here on the screen, I'm showing you the prompt that we send to the supervisor. And we ask it to perform tasks sequentially in order to address this particular project. And here we are focusing on a new product for the flying cars segment. So the requirement is to set up a campaign for flying cars, look at demographics, and perform a series of tasks. And we give that instructions and also inform the supervisor that it should ensure that all tasks are completed before it returns the result. So it sets off in its execution, and you can see that in the colored trace below. The supervisor first contacts the market analyst agent and asks it to perform market analysis. And that agent derives a series of tasks, including performing web search and looking at customer demographics and marketing channels. Then it finally generates a market analysis report and sends that back to the supervisor. The supervisor now contacts the campaign strategist and asks it to generate a high-level campaign strategy, as well as 3 campaign ideas. And based on that market analysis report, it does so and comes up with a few new ideas, including one that is called "The Future is Yours." Now, the content writer comes in and starts to write the first draft of this campaign, "The Future is Yours." It generates that first draft after a series of executions and then invokes the creative feedback director to get some feedback on that draft. The feedback director comes back with some responses, some suggestions to include perhaps new marketing channels, and a V2 of that draft is then created. So this kind of iteration between the two agents takes place until they are satisfied with the final review of that draft. And now the content writer can write the final version of the draft based on the output format that is defined for such a report. The supervisor will complete the rest of the campaign ideas and then generate a final report on the series of steps it took, as well as ensure that all tasks were completed. And what you have next is a final report that can be then shared with other users that includes the tables of content with an executive summary, perhaps a focus on a particular demographics, in this case, high net worth individuals, maybe looking at a particular market share to be captured in the next few years, and a detailed campaign implementation timeline for the campaign, The Future Is Yours. So through this example, I wanted to show how multiple agents come together in action with a supervisor orchestrating their tasks as well as their synthesizing the final response. Now, I want to encourage you all to create a free account on AWS Skills Builder to help you get started on learning some of these new skills. And we want to leave you with some resources in order to help you get started. On the left are Bedrock agent samples that have various examples across industries and multi-agent collaboration examples as well. This includes agent evaluation and observability with open telemetry APIs, as well as MCP support. And on the right is our catalog for healthcare and life science customers that help customers across R&D, clinical trials, and commercialization of a drug. Do give these a try, and I want to thank you all for being a great audience today. A big thank you to Andrew and AstraZeneca for sharing their story with us. And please do fill in the survey before you head for your next session. Thank you.